Welcome to HOA anger. She treated a fence panel like a felony. I am standing in my backyard in Minneapolis, Minnesota, holding a tape measure and a folded survey document, watching my contractor set the first fence post. When Shirley Clark comes around the side of my house without knocking and starts yelling before she even reaches the string line we stretched to mark the property boundary. You are not allowed to do that without permission. Her voice cuts through the afternoon heat, loud enough that my neighbor 2 doors down looks up from his driveway. I turn and see her marching across my lawn in a pink cardigan with the hood up even though it is June. Gray hair yanked back in a tight ponytail, coffee tumbler in one hand like she is holding a prop for a courtroom drama. Behind me, my contractor stops mid-swing with the post hole digger and glances at me with the universal expression of someone who has dealt with HOA board members before and knows this will take a while. Shirley does not wait for me to respond. She points at the string line we stretched between 2 stakes, the line that matches the survey map I paid $300 for last month, and announces that the fence location affects drainage, and she will call it an engineering violation. I ask her what engineering violation, because the survey shows I am 6 inches inside my property line, and the county has no easement recorded here. She ignores the question and pulls out her phone, snapping photos of the post hole digger leaning against the pile of dirt, the stakes, the string line, and my contractor's truck parked in the driveway. I work as a customer service supervisor for a call center, which means I record every call legally, and I have spent years learning how to stay calm when someone is screaming at me, so I do not raise my voice. I ask her again what specific rule in the Lakeshore Landing HOA covenants prohibits a fence on my own property line. She waves her hand like I just asked a stupid question and says she is the rules interpretation chair and she wrote the covenants, which is not true because the covenants were written in 1987 and Shirley bought her house here in 2003. My contractor sets the post hole digger down and walks over to his truck to grab his water bottle, which I recognize as the universal contractor move for letting the homeowner handle the crazy person so the job does not turn into a liability issue. Shirley steps closer to the string line and crouches down like she is inspecting it for evidence, then stands up and announces that the drainage easement runs exactly where I am putting the fence, and I will flood her crawl space. I ask her to show me the easement on the plat map. She does not have a plat map. I pull out my phone and open the county GIS app, zoom in on my lot, and show her that the only recorded easement is a 10-foot utility corridor along the back property line, and my fence is along the side yard nowhere near it. She looks at my phone screen for about 2 seconds, then says the app is wrong and she has the real documents at home. This is when I realize Shirley is not actually confused about the rules. She is angry that my fence will block her view of my backyard from her kitchen window, and she is going to use every piece of HOA leverage she has to stop me. I have lived in this neighborhood for 2 years, and I have watched Shirley do this to 3 other families. Last summer, she tried to fine someone for parking a work truck in their own driveway because the truck had a ladder rack, and she claimed it violated the commercial vehicle restriction. The year before that, she held up a roof replacement for 6 weeks by demanding pre-approval, even though the covenants do not require it for identical shingles. And now I am the target, because I want a fence that will let me keep my work vehicle behind a privacy screen, so Shirley cannot stand at her window with binoculars and document every time I load equipment. The thing about my work vehicle is that it is technically a passenger van with my company logo on the side. But Shirley has been calling it a commercial truck in the neighborhood group chat and claiming I am running a business out of my house, which I am not. I supervise a call center team from a home office, and the van is for transporting equipment between our regional hubs twice a month. It is legal, it is insured, and my HOA covenants allow 1 work vehicle as long as it is not a semi or a dump truck. But Shirley does not care about the actual rule. She cares about control. And a 6-foot privacy fence along my side yard means she cannot see my driveway from her kitchen anymore, which means she cannot take photos every time I park the van overnight, which means she loses her favorite hobby. Shirley steps over the string line, crossing onto my property, and taps the top of one of the stakes with her shoe, like she is testing whether it is secure. She looks up at me and says I can make this a lean conversation in one email. And she is not joking. I do not correct her lie, because I want her to commit to it in public. I pull out my small notepad, the one with wet pages from the morning rain, and write down the date, time, and exact words she just said. Shirley sees me writing and asks what I am doing. I tell her I am documenting the interaction in case I need it later. She laughs, a short, sharp sound, and says I will make an example out of you so everyone learns. Then she turns and walks back toward the front of my house, still holding her coffee tumbler like it is a gavel. My contractor comes back over and asks if we are stopping for the day. I tell him no. He nods, picks up the post hole digger, and starts working on the next hole. I pull up the security camera app on my phone and make sure the backyard camera caught the whole interaction. It did. Timestamp, audio, Shirley stepping over the string line onto my property, the whole thing. I save the clip to my phone and back it up to cloud storage, because I know from watching Shirley operate that she will escalate this fast, and I will need every piece of proof I can gather. The next morning I get a certified letter from the Lakeshore Landing HOA board. The letter is 2 pages, printed on official HOA letterhead, signed by Shirley in her capacity as Rules Interpretation Chair. It informs me that I am in violation of Section 4.7 of the covenants, which governs drainage easements, and Section 6.3, which requires pre-approval for any structure that alters the visual character of the neighborhood. The letter demands that I stop all fence construction immediately, remove the stakes and string line within 48 hours, and submit a formal appeal to the board if I wish to dispute the finding. It also includes a fine schedule, $200 for starting work without approval, plus $50 per day for every day the violation continues. At the bottom, in bold text, the letter states that failure to comply will result in the HOA filing a lien against my property. I read the letter twice, then pull out my copy of the covenants and look up the sections Shirley cited. Section 4.7 does mention drainage easements, but it only applies to the recorded easements on the plat map, and I already confirmed there is no easement where my fence is going. Section 6.3 does require pre-approval for structures, but the definition of structure in the covenants explicitly excludes fences under 8 feet tall, and my fence is 6 feet. Shirley is citing real section numbers, but she is applying them to a situation they do not cover. It is a bluff, and it is a good one, because most homeowners would see the letterhead and the legal language and assume the HOA is right. I call the management company that administers the HOA, a firm called Residential Community Services, and ask to speak with the compliance coordinator. The receptionist puts me on hold for 6 minutes, then transfers me to a voicemail box. I leave a message explaining that I received a violation notice that cites covenant sections incorrectly, and I need to submit a formal dispute. I also mention that I have a survey proving my fence is on my property and within the setback requirements. I hang up and send a follow-up email with the same information, attaching a PDF of the survey and a screenshot of the county GIS map showing no easement. 3 days pass, no response. My contractor calls and asks if he should come back to finish the fence or wait until the HOA situation clears up. I tell him to wait, because if he finishes the fence and the HOA tries to force me to remove it, I will lose the cost of materials and labor. He understands, but he also tells me he has another job starting next week, and if I do not lock in a date soon, he will have to push me back a month. This is my time pressure. If today collapses, I lose my spot on his schedule, and I will be stuck with an unfinished fence and a daily fine from the HOA while I wait for him to have an opening again. On day 4, I get an email from Residential Community Services. The email is short, almost curt. It informs me that my dispute packet was received but cannot be processed because I did not include the required filing fee. I scroll down and see that the required fee is $75, payable by check or money order, and must be submitted with a physical copy of the dispute form, which is available on the HOA website. I go to the website, download the form, fill it out, write a check, and mail the whole packet via certified mail so I have proof of delivery. The post office clerk tells me it will arrive in 2 business days. 2 business days later, I check the tracking number and confirm the packet was delivered and signed for. I wait another 3 days. No response. I call Residential Community Services again, get transferred to the same voicemail box, leave another message. The next day, I get an email saying they have no record of my dispute packet. I reply with the tracking number and a screenshot of the delivery confirmation showing someone at their office signed for it. The response comes an hour later. They will look into it and get back to me. That was 10 days ago, and I still have not heard anything. This is the side complication. The management company loses my dispute packet twice and acts like it is my fault, which gives Shirley extra time to escalate without anyone holding her accountable. While I am waiting for the management company to do their job, Shirley starts stage 2 of her campaign. I come home from work one evening and find a bright orange sticker on the driver's side window of my van, the one parked in my driveway. The sticker is the size of a postcard and has the HOA logo printed at the top. Below the logo, in large bold letters, it says Violation Notice, and below that, in smaller text, it states that my vehicle is parked in violation of Section 8.2, which prohibits commercial vehicles from being stored in visible locations. The sticker includes a case number, a date, and a warning that the vehicle must be removed within 72 hours or it will be subject to towing at the owner's expense. I peel the sticker off, which takes some effort because it is designed to leave residue, and I take a photo of it before I throw it away. Then I pull out my covenants again and look up Section 8.2. The section does prohibit commercial vehicles, but the definition is specific. Vehicles over 1 ton, vehicles with commercial plates, or vehicles used primarily for business operations like landscaping trucks or contractor rigs. My van has regular passenger plates, it weighs less than 1 ton, and I use it for transporting equipment twice a month, not daily business operations. Shirley is stretching the definition to include any vehicle with a company logo, which is not what the rule says. I call Residential Community Services again, and this time I get a live person. I explain the sticker situation, and the person on the phone tells me that vehicle enforcement is handled by a third-party contractor, and I need to contact them directly. She gives me a phone number. I call the number and reach a company called Neighborhood Compliance Solutions. The man who answers tells me that his company was hired by the Lakeshore Landing HOA to monitor parking violations, and if I have a dispute, I need to submit it in writing to the HOA board. I ask him if he physically inspected my van, or if he is relying on photos provided by a board member. He pauses, then says the report was submitted by an HOA representative and his company issued the notice based on that report. I thank him and hang up. So Shirley took photos of my van, sent them to a compliance company, and had them issue an official-looking violation notice without ever verifying whether the van actually violates the rule. It is efficient, I will give her that. And it is designed to intimidate me into moving the van out of sight, which would mean parking it on the street where it is more likely to get hit or broken into, or renting a storage space, which costs money I should not have to spend. I do not move the van. Instead, I print out the covenant section, highlight the definition of commercial vehicle, and write a short response letter explaining why my van does not meet the criteria. I also attach photos of the van's registration showing passenger plates, the manufacturer specs showing the weight, and a signed statement from my employer confirming the van is used for occasional transport, not daily business operations. I email the letter to Residential Community Services, the compliance company, and every board member whose email I can find on the HOA website. Then I make a physical copy and drop it in the mail slot at the management company's office. 2 days later, I get another orange sticker. This one is identical to the first, except the case number is different and the date has been updated. Shirley is not even pretending to process my dispute. She is just reissuing the violation and hoping I give up. I peel the second sticker off, take another photo, and add it to the growing folder of evidence on my phone. At this point, I have security camera footage of Shirley trespassing on my property, photos of 2 fraudulent vehicle violation stickers, copies of my dispute letters that the management company claims they never received, and a survey map proving my fence is legal. I also have the certified letter Shirley sent threatening a lien, and I have her own words on camera saying she will make an example out of me. But I still do not have the one thing I need to shut this down completely. I need proof that Shirley is fabricating violations on purpose, not just misinterpreting the rules. And I need it in a form that the board and the management company cannot ignore. The proof comes from an unexpected source. I have a neighbor, a guy named Tom, who lives 3 houses down and serves on the HOA board as the treasurer. Tom is not friends with Shirley. In fact, Tom has been trying to get Shirley removed from the board for 2 years because she keeps overstepping her authority and making unilateral decisions without board approval. Tom is also popular in the neighborhood, the kind of guy who organizes the annual block party and helps people move furniture, so when he speaks at board meetings, people listen. I did not know any of this until Tom knocked on my door one evening and asked if he could talk to me about the fence situation. Tom tells me that Shirley brought up my fence at the last board meeting, which I was not invited to, and she presented a series of photos showing the string line, the stakes, and the post hole digger. She claimed the photos proved I was building the fence on an easement and creating a drainage hazard. But Tom says the photos looked wrong to him because the angle and the lighting did not match the timeline Shirley was claiming. He asked Shirley when the photos were taken, and she said they were taken the day I started construction. Tom pulled out his phone and showed the board a photo he took from his driveway that same day, and the lighting in his photo did not match Shirley's. Tom thinks Shirley took her photos on a different day, possibly before I even started work, and then altered the date metadata to make it look like I was violating a stop work order that did not exist yet. I asked Tom if he still has his photo, and he says yes. I ask him if he would be willing to share it with me and possibly testify at a hearing if it comes to that. Tom says absolutely, and he also tells me that 2 other board members are getting tired of Shirley's behavior, and if I can present a strong enough case, they will vote to reverse the violation and possibly remove Shirley from her role as Rules Interpretation Chair. Tom emails me his photo that night, and I add it to my evidence folder. Now I have Shirley on 2 fronts: the vehicle stickers that she issued through a third-party company without verifying the facts, and the fence photos that she misrepresented at a board meeting. But I still need the smoking gun, the piece of evidence that proves intent. And I am not going to get it by waiting for the management company to respond to my emails. The next evening, I set up a second security camera aimed at my driveway, because I have a feeling Shirley is going to escalate again and I want to catch it on video. I am right. At 9:47 p.m., my phone buzzes with a motion alert from the driveway camera. I open the app and see Shirley walking up my driveway in the dark, carrying a flashlight and a phone. She stops next to my van, takes several photos of the side panel where the company logo is, and then walks around to the back of my house. I switch to the backyard camera and watch as she steps over the string line again, shines her flashlight on the stakes, and takes more photos. Then she crouches down next to one of the stakes, pulls it out of the ground, moves it about 2 feet to the left, and pushes it back into the dirt. I watched the whole thing happen in real time. Shirley just moved my survey stake to make it look like my fence line is in the wrong place. If I had not been recording, and if I did not have the original survey map, I would have no way to prove that the stake was moved. And if Shirley takes photos tomorrow showing the stake in the new location, she can claim I ignored the survey and built the fence on an easement, which would give her grounds to demand removal and fine me for non-compliance. I save the video, back it up to 3 different cloud accounts, and send a copy to Tom with a text message explaining what just happened. Tom replies within 2 minutes, "This is gold. Bring this to the hearing, and she is done." I text back asking what hearing, and Tom explains that Shirley scheduled an emergency compliance hearing for next week to fast-track the fence violation and authorize a lien. The hearing is not public, but Tom can get me on the agenda as a respondent, which means I will have a chance to present my evidence and challenge Shirley's claims in front of the full board. If you are enjoying this HOA chaos, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories where the entitled board members get exactly what they deserve. Tom also tells me something I did not know. The management company, Residential Community Services, has been trying to get rid of Shirley for months because she keeps filing violations that are not supported by the covenants. And the company has to spend time processing disputes and issuing refunds, which costs them money and makes them look incompetent. If I can prove that Shirley is fabricating violations and tampering with evidence, the management company will back me up because it gives them a reason to recommend Shirley's removal from the board. The emergency compliance hearing is scheduled for the following Tuesday at 7 p.m. in the clubhouse meeting room. I spend the weekend organizing my evidence, printed copies of the survey map, the county GIS screenshot, the certified letter from Shirley, the 2 vehicle violation stickers, the tracking confirmations showing I submitted my dispute packet twice, Tom's photo with the original date metadata, and the security camera footage showing Shirley moving the stake. I also print out the relevant covenant sections with the definitions highlighted, and I write a short statement summarizing the timeline and the pattern of harassment. On Tuesday evening, I arrive at the clubhouse 10 minutes early. The meeting room is a bland rectangular space with folding tables arranged in a U-shape and a projector screen at the front. Shirley is already there, sitting at the head of the table with a 3-ring binder open in front of her and a stack of printed photos next to it. She is wearing the same pink cardigan and the same tight ponytail, and she has her coffee tumbler sitting on the table like a prop. When I walk in, she looks up and gives me a tight smile that does not reach her eyes. She says, "I am glad you could make it," then goes back to flipping through her binder. Tom is sitting at the far end of the table, along with 3 other board members I recognize from neighborhood events. One of them is the HOA president, a retired accountant named Gary, who always looks like he would rather be anywhere else. The other 2 are the secretary and the compliance officer, both of whom nod at me when I sit down. The management company sent a representative, a woman in her 30s wearing business casual and carrying a laptop. She introduces herself as Dana and explains that she is here to take notes and provide covenant interpretation if needed. Gary calls the meeting to order and reads the case number for my fence violation. He asks Shirley to present her findings. Shirley opens her binder and pulls out a printed packet, which she distributes to everyone at the table. The packet includes the photos she took of my string line and stakes, the certified letter she sent me, and a 2-page summary claiming that I started construction on a drainage easement without pre-approval, ignored a stop work order, and refused to cooperate with the dispute process. Shirley stands up and walks to the front of the room, holding her coffee tumbler like a pointer. She says I have been in this neighborhood for 2 years, and in that time I have demonstrated a pattern of disregard for community standards. She says I park a commercial vehicle in my driveway in violation of Section 8.2. I started fence construction without submitting the required pre-approval form, and I have ignored multiple notices to cease work and remove the encroachment. She points to the photos in the packet and says these images clearly show the fence line is located on a recorded drainage easement, which creates a liability for the HOA and threatens the integrity of the neighborhood stormwater system. Gary asks Shirley if she has documentation of the easement. Shirley flips through her binder and pulls out a hand-drawn map that she claims is based on the original plat. The map is not to scale, it is not notarized, and it has no official county stamp. Gary asks if she has the actual plat map from the county. Shirley says she requested it, but the county has not sent it yet. Tom leans forward and asks why Shirley did not wait for the official plat before issuing a violation. Shirley snaps that the HOA has a duty to act quickly when a violation threatens public safety, and she was not going to sit around waiting for bureaucrats to mail a document. Gary thanks Shirley and asks me to present my response. I stand up and distribute my own packet, which includes the survey map, the county GIS screenshot, the covenant sections with definitions highlighted, and the tracking confirmations for my dispute submissions. I explain that the survey map, which was prepared by a licensed surveyor and filed with the county, shows no drainage easement where my fence is located. I explain that Section 6.3 of the covenants excludes fences under 8 feet from the pre-approval requirement, and my fence is 6 feet. I explain that I submitted a dispute packet twice, both times via certified mail with tracking confirmation, and both times the management company claimed they never received it. Dana, the management company representative, interrupts and says she will look into the missing dispute packets after the meeting. I thank her and continue. I pull out the 2 vehicle violation stickers and explain that Section 8.2 defines commercial vehicle as a vehicle over 1 ton or a vehicle with commercial plates, and my van has passenger plates and weighs less than 1 ton. I show the board my vehicle registration and the manufacturer specs. Tom nods and makes a note on his laptop. Then I pull out Tom's photo, the one showing my backyard on the day I started construction, and I pass it around the table. I explain that the lighting and shadows in Tom's photo do not match the lighting in Shirley's photos, which suggests Shirley's photos were taken on a different day, and the date metadata was altered. Shirley interrupts and says that is absurd, and she does not need to alter photos because the violation is obvious to anyone with eyes. Gary asks Shirley if she can provide the original image files with the metadata intact. Shirley says she deleted them to save space on her phone. I do not argue with her. Instead, I pull out my phone, connect it to the projector at the front of the room, and play the security camera footage from 2 nights ago. The video shows Shirley walking up my driveway at 9:47 p.m., photographing my van, walking into my backyard, and pulling the survey stake out of the ground and moving it 2 feet to the left. The room goes silent. Gary leans back in his chair and crosses his arms. Tom stares at Shirley with an expression that could melt steel. The compliance officer whispers something to the secretary, and the secretary nods. Shirley stands up and says the video is fake, that I edited it to make her look bad, and the board should not trust anything I present because I have been hostile and uncooperative from the start. Gary asks Shirley if she can explain why she was in my backyard at 9:47 p.m. without permission. Shirley says she was conducting a routine compliance inspection. Gary asks if routine compliance inspections are normally conducted after dark and without notifying the homeowner. Shirley does not answer. Tom speaks up. He says he has been on this board for 4 years, and in that time he has watched Shirley issue violations for things that are not actually violations, misrepresent covenant language to suit her personal preferences, and harass homeowners who challenge her authority. He says this video is proof that Shirley is not enforcing the rules in good faith, and if the board does not take action, the HOA could be liable for harassment and possibly fraud. The compliance officer agrees. She says she has received complaints about Shirley from at least 6 other homeowners in the past year, and the management company has had to issue refunds for fines that were not supported by the covenants. Dana, the management company representative, speaks up. She says Residential Community Services has been documenting concerns about Shirley's conduct for several months, and the video I just showed confirms a pattern of behavior that violates the company's ethics policy. She says the management company will recommend to the board that Shirley be removed from her role as Rules Interpretation Chair, and that all pending violations issued by Shirley be reviewed and reversed if they are not supported by the covenants. Gary asks Shirley if she has anything else to say. Shirley stands up, grabs her binder and her coffee tumbler, and says this is a witch hunt and she will not sit here and be attacked by a homeowner who thinks he is above the rules. She walks out of the room, slamming the door behind her. The remaining board members sit in silence for a moment. Then Gary clears his throat and says the board will take a vote on the fence violation. He asks for a motion to reverse the violation and dismiss all related fines. Tom makes the motion. The compliance officer seconds it. The vote is unanimous. Gary then asks for a motion to remove Shirley from her role as Rules Interpretation Chair, pending a full board review of her conduct. Tom makes the motion. The secretary seconds it. The vote is 4-0, with one abstention because the compliance officer says she wants to review the management company's recommendations before committing to a permanent removal. Gary says the motion passes and Shirley's access to HOA enforcement tools will be suspended immediately. He also says the board will schedule a special meeting to review the vendor relationship with Neighborhood Compliance Solutions. Because if Shirley was able to issue fraudulent vehicle violations through that company, the board needs to know how that happened and whether the company has adequate oversight. Dana says the management company will send me a formal letter within 3 business days confirming that the fence violation has been reversed, all fines have been dismissed, and I am authorized to complete construction. She also says the company will process a refund for the 2 dispute filing fees I paid, and they will update their records to reflect that my van does not violate Section 8.2. I thank her and sit down. The meeting ends at 8:30 p.m. Tom walks out with me and says that was the most satisfying board meeting he has ever attended. He also tells me that Shirley is almost certainly going to resign from the board entirely once she realizes she has lost her enforcement power, and the board will probably elect someone new to replace her. I thank Tom for his help, and I tell him that without his photo and his willingness to speak up, I would still be stuck in an endless loop of disputes and fines. The next morning, I call my contractor and tell him the fence is back on. He comes out that afternoon and finishes the installation in 2 days. The fence is 6 feet tall, pressure-treated cedar, stained a natural brown, and it sits exactly on the property line as marked by the survey. It looks great. It also completely blocks Shirley's view of my driveway, which was the whole point. 3 weeks after the hearing, I get a letter from Residential Community Services confirming that Shirley has resigned from the board. The letter also states that the board has voted to implement new policies requiring all violation notices to be reviewed by the management company before they are issued, and all compliance inspections must be scheduled in advance with written notice to the homeowner. The letter thanks me for bringing the issues to the board's attention and says the HOA is committed to ensuring fair and transparent enforcement going forward. A month after that, Tom is elected as the new HOA president, and one of his first actions is to initiate a budget review that reveals vendor favoritism. It turns out Shirley had a personal relationship with the owner of Neighborhood Compliance Solutions, and she was issuing violations through that company even when other board members objected, because the company gave her direct access to their system without requiring board approval for each case. The board terminates the contract with Neighborhood Compliance Solutions and hires a new compliance company that requires all violation reports to go through the management company first. I also find out, through a conversation with Dana, that the management company had an internal note admitting the violation was fabricated. The note was written by a junior compliance officer who reviewed Shirley's original violation report and realized the easement claim was not supported by the county records. But Shirley pressured the officer to issue the letter anyway, because she said the board had already voted to enforce it, which was a L.E. The officer wrote the note as a CYA and sent it to the management company's legal department. But the legal department did not act on it until I showed up with evidence of tampering and harassment. Dana tells me the note was one of the key reasons the management company recommended Shirley's removal, because it showed she was knowingly issuing false violations and putting the company at risk of liability. I never see Shirley again. I hear through the neighborhood grapevine that she moved out 6 months later and bought a condo in a different part of the city, one with no HOA. The new rules interpretation chair is a retired paralegal who actually reads the covenants and sends polite emails asking for clarification before issuing violations. The neighborhood group chat is quieter. People are friendlier. And I can park my work van in my driveway without worrying about orange stickers or fabricated violations. The fence is still standing. The minutes record the reversal and the reason. Karen's staged photos got used against her. And every time I look out my back window and see that fence blocking Shirley's old house, I remember the moment I played that video in the board meeting and watched her entire strategy collapse in real time. More HOA drama soon.